you see him on the news.
CNN.com contributor, Dean Obeidallah. So, Dean...
Watch him at comedy clubs.
When I say Mecca, do you think of a holy place or an urban clothing line?
Read his articles, and you hear him on the radio. The Dean Obeidallah Show is on live right here on SiriusXM Progress, channel 127.
Excuse me, and welcome to the Dean Obeidallah Show, my friends. It is Friday, March 15th. I'm sorry, I'm choking on food. I'm not getting emotional. Although I might get emotional later, I have to warn you that it's been, as you might imagine, a very difficult day. And it is Friday, March 15th. And if you listen to the show, you know I often begin by saying I want to be your MBFF, your Muslim best friend. Today is a day, though, as a Muslim, I need you to be my friend. I need you to be our community's friend. This is a very, very hard day. It's a much harder day than I thought it was going to be. Much more emotionally draining and a roller coaster of emotions that I did not expect on any level. And I want to start with Shepard Smith's reporting on Fox News. He does not play the video of the terrorist in New Zealand, but a producer watched it and gave him a timeline. And I found it so compelling. I've not heard this anywhere. Shep Smith just tells us about what this gunman did. And then we'll go from there. So let's play clip number 1, please.
We will not show his video, but an editor here watched it and provided the following information. The gunman seems upbeat, almost casual, as he sits in his car before the massacre. There are guns in the passenger seat visible on the video and one tucked beside his leg. The rifles covered in white supremacist symbols and messages painted in white. As he drives, the car's stereo starts playing a nationalist Serbian song praising a war criminal who committed genocide against Muslims in the 1990s. Our editor who could hear the GPS, a British woman's voice, giving the killer directions to the mosque. For a moment, he pulls off the road, turns to the camera, faces it, and says, "Hello, lads." When he arrives at the mosque, he pulls into a side alley, remarking how quick the drive was. He gets out, opens the trunk, grabs another gun, and walks into the mosque's front courtyard. 2 men are standing in the entryway, their backs to the gunman. He opens fire. The 2 men drop, and the killer moves inside. One of those victims is desperately trying to crawl away, leaving a trail of blood on a green carpet. The gunman walks up and fires point blank. And that was just the beginning.
So that is what happened today, and that was just the beginning. Let me tell you how I began my day. You know, I wake up early around 7:15 every day. It's what I do. I like to wake up early. I turn on my phone while my computer's booting up, and there's a text message from our friend Shelley Wright, who comes on about once a month. She's a country star, a really great person. And it said, "I'm sending love to you and your loved ones." And I'm like, that's nice. I'm like, I'm not sure. I had no idea why that would be, but I'm like, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. And I go to my email before I check the news, and there's emails there from various friends saying, "You're in my prayers and my thoughts." And I have no idea what is going on. Literally, no idea. And I'm like, maybe people thought it was my birthday or something. And I go to CNN.com, and there's the headline: 49 killed in terrorist attacks in New Zealand mosques. And that changed everything. And the rush of emotion was not what I expected in certain regards. Certainly I felt heartbreak and pain for those who were lost their loved ones. There were prayers on Friday, and for Muslims, Friday is the equivalent as Sunday for Christians or Saturday for Jews. It's the day that you go to church, you go to mosque. It's called Jumu'ah prayers, which is Friday in Arabic. And for that senseless loss, I felt for them. But then another emotion took hold, one I didn't expect, and that emotion was anger. And it was a building anger that just grew inside of me till I literally screamed in my apartment. And let me explain to you where that anger comes from. It comes from a frustration. It comes from a deep frustration that this terrorist attack was preventable. And I don't mean gun safety laws. I mean for other reasons. And this could have easily happened in the United States of America. It just happened to have occurred in New Zealand. But there are others who have plotted to kill American Muslims here. And we'll go through it a little bit. So why my sense of frustration? Why my sense of anger that built all day? Well, for 2 distinct reasons. One, because in the United States of America, we have people, elected officials, and politicians who can openly demonize Muslims with no downside, In fact, it helps them politically because Donald Trump, the anti-Muslim bigot in chief, is in the White House today. A man who said Islam hates us, who lied and said Muslims cheered on 9/11, who called for a total complete shutdown of Muslims, who said, and I'll read his quote because in this context it sounds even more sinister. He goes, if you have people coming out of mosques with hatred and death in their eyes and on their minds, we're going to have to do something about it. Yet he is still president of the United States. And in the media, for years, we've had people given a platform almost exclusively on Fox News to openly demonize Muslims. From Bridget Gabriel to Frank Gaffney to Pamela Geller, people will say that Muslims are not patriotic, that we're a threat, that I'm a threat, that I'm waging a self-jihad in this country, and any Muslim who's in the media or in politics, we are trying to destroy this country. Even those in public service are trying to destroy this country, not help it. We've heard that for years. And you don't have to go back to years. You can go like last Saturday, Jeanine Pirro on Fox News saying that Representative Omar, because she wears a hijab, is not loyal to this country because she's following Sharia, which again is simply at its essence what they've been spewing for years on Fox News, that practicing Muslims are not loyal to the United States of America. That is the oldest, most vile trope against Muslims. It's right up there that we're all terrorists. Now, I will say this. Ultimately, the gunman is responsible for his actions. But the gunman does not live in a vacuum. And in our increasingly interconnected society, where everything you see on Facebook and Twitter and even on YouTube or clips from Fox News, you see them instantaneously. They're posted here. They show up in New Zealand and Australia at the same exact time. And you can watch that. You can see that it's in this stew of hate that people marinate. And in the manifesto of this very gunman, he actually talked about Donald Trump, hailing him. And then something else upset me and angered me. And that is that we've seen an uptick growing over the last few years of terrorist plots by right-wingers, by white supremacists to kill Muslims in America. Yet it gets so little coverage in the United States. I've written about it. I've literally talked to producers and anchors sometimes and begged them to cover it. And not even having me on, just cover it. And they don't. And I'll explain why it's so important. And I mean, let me give you a few. Have you heard of the man sentenced in January 2017 to 20 years in prison for plotting a deadly attack to kill Muslims in upstate New York that included a plan to blow up the mosque with a Molotov cocktail, use military-grade guns, as well as a machete to cut Muslims to shreds? Have you heard about Robert Doggart? Probably not. It's not your fault. Our media doesn't cover it. I wrote about it. Have you heard about the 3 men sentenced just in January, 2 months ago, to 25 years to life? They had started an anti-Muslim white supremacist group called the Crusaders, and in Kansas, they plotted to kill Somali Muslim refugees. They even mimicked and praised Donald Trump. 25 years to life. Didn't get any press. Got some press on paper, but not breaking news. As if they were Muslims plotting to kill Christians, what kind of press do you think that gets? The list goes on and on. December 6th, 2016, a man 30 years in prison, a white supremacist. He was building a dirty bomb, literally a weapon of mass destruction. He was an engineer. And to kill Muslims in upstate New York where he lives, 30 years to life for terrorism with a weapon of mass destruction. You would have thought with a weapon of mass destruction, maybe that would get some national press in cable news. It did not. In fact, it's been quantified. University of Alabama had a study out last year. Terrorist attacks committed by Muslim extremists in the United States get covered 357% more of the time than those when the perpetrator is not Muslim. So that's where my anger builds, because not that I believe it could actually have stopped the attack in New Zealand, but that in this world that is so interconnected in a bad way, it's also connected in a positive way, that maybe law enforcement in New Zealand would have seen the rise in white supremacist terrorism going on against Muslims. And maybe when they saw postings online of a manifesto or any kind of hateful comments by people against Muslims intertwined with white supremacy, they would take it very, very seriously, knowing something's going on. But when it doesn't get the coverage, they don't see that. If it got big coverage in America, believe me, the world sees American media. And then to make it worse, to get it more angry as the day goes on, Donald Trump today tweeted various times about this attack. After tweeting about Breitbart first, we were just talking to Michelangelo Signorelli about that. He tweeted about best wishes to people in New Zealand, and just a short time ago he tweeted, just spoke to the Prime Minister of New Zealand. We stand with the people of New Zealand. We love you, New Zealand. We love you, New Zealand. The only victims were 49 Muslims. No, we don't love you, Muslims. We don't stand with you, Muslims. We don't concern for Muslims. We stand with New Zealand. And then to make it worse, he's just on TV, Trump, a short time ago, asked, is there a rise in white nationalist terrorism in this country, in the world? And he says no. It's all the same reason. The main reason that Donald Trump can't say something nice about Muslims, because his base will turn on him. The only time Donald Trump says the word Muslim, if it's followed by the word ban, or Muslim and then terrorist, that's the only time he'll talk about Muslim. He can't say something nice like, oh, my heart is broken, or my family, our thoughts and prayers to the Muslims who were killed today. No, nothing about Muslims. Nothing. Not one tweet, not one nice comment. What, for 1 second, think about today, if a Muslim terrorist walked into a church and killed 49 Christians while they were praying, how do you think Donald Trump would be responding? All day tweets about it. He'd have a press conference to denounce it and to talk about it, the threat of radical Islamic terrorism. In fact, Donald Trump during the campaign made a big point. If we don't say the words radical Islamic terrorism, we can't solve it. Well, to this day, Donald Trump, even after Charlottesville, even after numerous white supremacist terrorist attacks, has not said the words white supremacist terrorism. And he'll never will, because that's his base. That's what he needs. He needs the passion of those who hate brown people, who hate Muslims, who hate black people, to come out and help him win. Do you think it's a coincidence during the campaign Donald Trump retweeted white supremacists with the name white genocide on their Twitter handle? Are you kidding me? Do you think it's a coincidence he did not denounce David Duke when asked by Jake Tapper during the campaign and pressed on it? And then only when shame later did he denounce David Duke? And look, today is a day for mourning for the families who lost loved ones. That's the focus more than anything. But I can't escape the anger that I feel. And I can't escape the anger looking at the pictures in New York here of mosques with SWAT teams in front of them today for prayers here in America. Think about if you're going to your place of worship and you walk in and there's a SWAT team in front of it there to protect you, because you know in the back of your mind there are people in this country who want to kill you simply because of the way you pray and worship God. That's what's going on. And Donald Trump for years and the right has demanded me, a Muslim, denounce every Muslim who is bad around the world. When anything happened anywhere, I was called out. All of us were called out in my community to denounce the terrorists. Donald Trump, where is your denunciation? The GOP, where is your denunciation of a man who espoused anti-Muslim and anti-immigrant rhetoric? That is your platform. You own this. There's a direct line between Donald Trump and white supremacist terrorism. Direct line, not suggested, not inferred, direct line between Donald Trump and white supremacist terrorism. He has defended them. He's an apologist for white supremacist terrorism, refuses to denounce them. And even today, after a murder of 49 Muslims, he won't even use the word Muslim and denies the fact that there's a rise in white supremacy, which the ADL, we'll get into later, is absolutely quantified as absolutely true. So this is where we are. This is where we are right now in the world. We are seeing a growing international plot of white supremacists connecting online, working with each other, inspiring each other, radicalizing each other. And the President of the United States, instead of denouncing them, will call them fine people in Charlottesville. Today, not use the term white supremacist terrorism, denounce that it's a growing threat in this country, and everything's fine. GOP is silent. Let me be blunt. Donald Trump is a cancer. Trumpism is a cancer. And there's only one remedy that I know of, November 3rd, 2020. Because even having Mueller impeach him is not enough. To get rid of the cancer of Trumpism, of this growing threat of white supremacy in this nation, the only way is that all the good people, we come out and vote, and we not only knock out Trump, we win the Senate and add seats to the House, and show America that this is what this nation stands for. November 3rd, 2020 is about the soul of this nation. And this is the only hope I have. This is the remedy. People go, what do? That's it. We have to make it clear, not only beat Trump, we knock out the Republicans who were silent and refuse to denounce him. Anything else, this festers and this grows. And if you're not in their group of white supremacists and that core subset, you're a target. You're at best tolerated, at worst, next maybe demonized, and at worst killed. This is where we are in the United States of America today on March 15th, 2019. Thanks to Donald Trump. And Republicans are silent. They are complicit. So I'd love to hear what you think. The idea of how do we address this? How do we address the growing violence in this country by white supremacists? When I come back, I'll read some statistics from the ADL to quantify that there's absolutely objectively an increase in white supremacist activity, propaganda, and in violence last year. Record numbers. And Donald Trump refuses to denounce it because that's his base. 866-997-4748. Let's take a break. Come right back.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.